I don't even know how to start this podcast, to be quite frank. I don't even know how to start this video. The recap of the embarrassing 42-26 loss against the division rival Los Angeles Rams, a team, though, you beat with Mac Jones just a couple weeks back. Just a couple weeks back. In an overtime Thursday night thriller, you just, went toe-to-toe with this team, with Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. Actually, Puka, I don't know if was playing that game. Correct me if I'm wrong. In this game, couldn't even get a lead on him. Couldn't even stop him. Couldn't even slow him down. An absolute total defensive disaster class. Let's be frank. And the offense wasn't much better. Maybe marginally a little bit better, but not like it was dropping points. Anyways, just an embarrassing loss. Coming off of a pretty, a dominating win, but it is against the Giants. You beat the Giants, so you feel good. You're coming off of that win. And since week 3, it's just been win-loss, back and forth. This team gets too comfortable. This team beats on a not-so-good team and then ends up choking it. We saw what they did against Houston. Another defensive disaster class there. Next game against Arizona, probably gonna, who knows? They might shut them down just with how the season has been going and look like a solid, competent team. But against the Rams, that is not the 49ers who we know, as far as I'm concerned. Down 21-0 at one point in the first half. 21 points, 3 pole possessions. Wow. It speaks to the offense and the defense there. Offense couldn't stay on the field and, take some time off, get even a field goal up. And the defense couldn't stop a cold. Wow. Grant Kahn said this is a statement loss. He believes this is who the team is. It's a team that can't compete with the top dogs. And, it's hard to say he's wrong in that perspective. With how they look today, it was horrendous. It was horrendous. And it's not a total knock. You've been dealing with injuries all season. It's hard to put the blame on anybody because, we're running so many young guys out there. Bad pass rush. The secondary was picked apart. It's just this team is so inconsistent. It's got the ups and downs. Week to week, you don't know what to expect. 1 week, it's like, hey, maybe this pass rush is sneaky, and Clelin Ferrell, maybe he can wreak some havoc. Tatum Bethune looked like a solid linebacker. Hey, and then the next week, man, all day in the pocket for the quarterback. You just have no idea what defense you're going to get from this team. But before we talk about the defense, let's talk about the offense. Mac Jones, 33 for 39, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Honestly, a really efficient game from Mac 10. Solid game, makes some solid throws, but he did start a little bit questionable, clearly, when they were down 21-0. That plays a part in Mac a little bit. It's hard to put the blame on him with the stat line there, but when you're watching the game, there was some questionable decisions, some missed throws perhaps. It wasn't anything too major, of course. The interception was bad. That pretty much sealed the deal. But you're trying to throw it in that time. You're trying to dig yourself out of a hole. You're trying to make a comeback happen. And pretty much what we've learned about this team, for the most part, we saw it at the Houston game as well. Can't win from behind. If a team goes up, I want to say 2 possessions, it's pretty much wraps for this team. And I think that comes with the team being so young. A lot of rookies out there, they don't maybe have the mentality that some of the vets would have when they're down, and maybe they see this big deficit as well. That's the game, folks. Not with Kyle Shanahan. Anything is possible in the National Football League. This team could have won this game. This team could have came back. It just didn't happen. But it's tough to say Mac Jones was a big part of that. But he definitely obviously wasn't the help of it. Christian McCaffrey, 12 carries for 30 yards. The Rams' run defense was all over him. Brian Robinson had 8 carries for 41 yards and a touchdown, though. So Brian Robinson, had a better running game than Christian McCaffrey. It must be, partially Rams see CMC in the backfield. They're going to play it a little bit differently if they saw Brian Robinson in the backfield, perhaps. But, I like seeing Brian Robinson get involved a little bit more. I'm not too upset that he outdid McCaffrey this game. McCaffrey also had 8 receptions for 66 yards, so just a little under 100 yards for CMC. What I really like about Brian Robinson getting involved more is that CMC is just elite eye candy in that perspective. He's a great slot receiver this season, which is going to be great to preserve him for next season when you hope to contend, if not this year. He's still got it on the ground. He's shown that the past couple weeks, but he doesn't need to. He can save his body a little bit and take some lesser blows, maybe just from the cornerbacks instead of the big linebackers coming in. So I'm not too upset. I like having Brian Robinson get involved more. That's 2 straight weeks with a touchdown for him, so I love to see that. O-line was bad, though. I think that definitely played a part into why McCaffrey's rushing numbers are so low. Jake Brendel made his return. He had some misassignments, I think, on the very first play of the game. I want to say his guy ended up making the tackle on McCaffrey. And so was Ben Bartch, who was, I believe, starting at left guard. Matt Hennessy and Spencer Burford were starting in their place the past couple weeks. And they actually look pretty solid, if I do say so myself. I definitely think that Kyle Shanahan has to make some uncomfortable decisions regarding Jake Brendel. Okay, Matt Hennessy outperformed him in 2 games. Point blank period. There was no reason why Matt Hennessy shouldn't have been starting this game. As for Spencer Burford, he's had his ups and downs. I'm not too upset starting Ben Bartch returning from injury at left guard, but I think if you see him start struggling, Ben Bartch should have been pulled. Spencer Burford should have been put back in, or Connor Colby, the rookie. Obviously, he also had his faults, no doubt. Receiving, George Kittle led the team, 9 receptions for 84 yards and a amazing touchdown. Again, it's just that veteran mentality of constantly striving. He was, caught it on the sideline, stayed in bounds, very athletic play, stretched the ball, got it over the goal line. It was beautiful, and that's the George Kittle you love to see. Doing that at 30-something years age, it is great. I want to say a quiet 84 yards, a very quiet, good game for George Kittle, but the games that you expect and want him to have. Jauan Jennings had 6 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown, and honestly, I think I'm happy that Jennings didn't get that $20 million contract that he wanted. He had a very crucial fumble that obviously set the team back in the first half. And I mean, just I don't know if he has that X factor. Last season when he was the receiver 1, it was nice, it was good, he was a reliable guy. Now I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I don't want to hate on Jauan. He was one of my favorite players, but it seemed like with the whole contract dispute and everything, things just haven't been working out in his favor. And I don't know if he needs a change of scenery. I don't know if he just needs a break and a reset, and the bye week is going to be big in a couple weeks. I don't know what it is, but Jauan, maybe he's in his own head or what. He needs to take that step up. He needs to be more reliable of a receiver 1, especially with all the other receivers out. When Ayuk and Pearsall is in, then I think Jennings can go back to his role, and he's great in his wide receiver 3, third down role. That's great. But when he's the number 1 receiver and teams focus their attention towards him, it doesn't work out so great. Still, 71 yards and a touchdown. I can't complain too much, but man. And then McCaffrey, also, he had 66 yards. Demarcus Robinson had 3 receptions for 34 yards. Kendrick Bourne, only 1 catch for 19 yards. I don't know how Kendrick Bourne isn't getting more involved in the game plan. I know he's been confused at some times and he looks a little lost, but man, last time against the Rams, he had that spectacular performance where he had, almost 200 yards receiving. I wanted to see, that Kendrick Bourne again, especially with the connection he has with Mac, and it just hasn't really came out since. Luke Farrell caught the Mac Jones' 3rd touchdown. He had 2 receptions for 15 yards, being that tight end too. I'm not too sure where Tonjes is. Jake Tonjes. I thought he was a nice tight end, man. But Luke Farrell has pretty much taken that tight end 2 role. No Jordan Watkins at all this game. I was really surprised. He made a really strong catch against New York I don't know if he got on the field, let alone a catch. But just upsetting there. You want to see the young guys rock, especially when it's a blowout like this. Yes, you were kind of in the game, but you might as well throw the young guys in so they can get that experience. Come on. And then the offensive line was just horrid. But hey, no sacks for giving up. But just the play, just the play, especially run blocking, was way ugly. As I mentioned, Burford and Hennessy got replaced, but I don't know if that was the right move. Defensively, embarrassing showing. Couldn't get off the field. Couldn't give your offense a break, man. Stafford had all day in the pocket. Stafford could have cooked up anything. He could have cooked up anything, but he could have smoked a brisket back there. That's how bad it was. It just, man, the pass rush, I don't know if Saleh can't simulate blitzes or what. It's just there is no type of pressure. Stafford was very comfortable, and he walks away from Levi's with a clean jersey. Bryce Huff made his return from his hamstring injury, but he made no impact. I don't even think he was 100%. Keon White, just meh. All around, the D-line is just bad. What was nice was CJ West returning. He made some plays, I want to say. But overall, the run defense was just getting gashed. No Michael Williams as well. And he was, maybe the best run defender on that D-line. Really, I have not one positive from the defensive line. Maybe CJ West if you want to throw him in there. But, man, it was ugly. The linebackers, D. Winters and Tatum Bethune. When they're playing against an elite quarterback like Matthew Stafford, I think that their experience or lack thereof really shows, and they get picked apart relatively easily. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to put too much blame on them because, again, Bethune was, a 6th, 7th round rookie in his second year filling in for Fred Warner. And D. Winters, I think, he looked like a really solid player with Fred Warner around, and I think it's credit to Fred Warner's greatness. I feel like he benefited a ton with having Fred Warner next to him, and now his job is tougher with Tatum Bethune because now he is who is leaned upon rather than it being Fred. And Luke Gifford, man, being played over Nick Martin. He was getting picked apart all day, man. I don't know why. Luke Gifford, he's a career special teams guy, mind you. Nick Martin, you spent a 3rd round pick on this guy, and you haven't seen him at all. What hurt would it be to throw Nick Martin in over Luke Gifford? I promise you, he isn't going to play worse. He isn't going to play much worse. It's tough to play much worse. At least he brings some athleticism and some young energy and potential that, Luke Gifford just doesn't have. Let's be quite frank. So I think that was kind of a coaching mismanagement there. You drafted a bunch of these rookies. Why not play them? You invested so many picks into that defense. You're already playing young guys in the secondary. You're trusting young guys in the linebackers. Why not throw Nick Martin in over Luke Gifford? It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. Again, would it have been game-changing? Probably not. It probably would have been similar results, but at least you're playing your 3rd round rookie. At least you're seeing what he's got. Worst case scenario, he's playing like Luke Gifford. Best case scenario, you've got a starting caliber guy here. So I didn't understand this. And speaking of the secondary, man, I mentioned earlier, they couldn't catch a cold. 3rd down, what's going to Puka Nacua. They don't guard him. I don't know how he gets wide open on a 3rd down. Same thing in the red zone against Devontae Adams. They love throwing at the goal line. And somehow, some way, Malik Mustafa, the safety who, mind you, just made his return a couple weeks back, he's one-on-one with Devontae Adams. What? How and why did Malik Mustafa get matched up against Devontae Adams? That should 100% be Renardo Green, Diamador Lenore, somebody. Speaking of Diamador Lenore, I want to say he gave up like 2 touchdowns this game, or they were in his vicinity. I really think that he should be shadowing guys. I really think that, he's a dog, no doubt about it. I think he's got a shadow. I get that Saleh has never really followed guys, but I think that if you want your best chance for your defense with how poor it's been performing, how poor the safety play has been, I feel like you have to move Lenore. And obviously, maybe I don't know as much as Saleh. I say maybe. I definitely don't know as much as Robert Saleh. But I think you want to match up your best guy with their best guy. In breaking routes were just the death of this team. It was just Stafford was just picking on those in breakers all day, and more no positives from the secondary. The only positive is an almost interception from Bernardo Green. Another note. Play Chase Lucas, man. Upton Stout, I was super big on him. I thought he was going to be very solid. He's still very young and very raw. Chase Lucas brings that dog energy to this team that this team needs so desperately right now. And Chase Lucas, when he got his time to play, he looked really good. He looked very solid. And he made some big plays. Or sign Asante Samuel. They had a workout with him as I'm recording this. I want to say he left without a deal. I would hope that they can revisit that and get him on the team because this team needs cornerback depth desperately. The biggest question is how far can this defense especially go without Bosa, without Warner, and now without Mike Hill? Frankly, looks like not that far, unfortunately. Overall, I pretty much have it scratched just as it's just a bad game. All in all, Saleh got out coached. Shanahan tried, but 26 points is just not going to cut it. With this defense, this offense really needs to be scoring in that 30 range to kind of coincide with how many points the defense is going to let up. The team is really not in a bad position per se. They're 6-4. They're pretty much on the brink of the wild card. There's going to be some crucial games coming soon. Next up is Arizona, and then Carolina, Cleveland, and the bye week, and then Tennessee. So, looking ahead, there's a lot of very winnable games in there. They play Chicago down the line. That's going to be a very big game. But the team just be bought in. The team, the coaches, everybody has to be bought in if they will. But the team has to be bought in. The team has to, and the coaches have to be bought in that they want to win. Everybody needs to be on board if that's what they want to do. They could just want to throw away the season and retool for next year. That's not out of the equation. If they want to compete, they're on that brink of it. This team could get hot at the right time and make a playoff run. Again, without Warner, without Bosa, how far that'll be, I don't know. Now, on to the Cardinals. It's a new week, new mindset, hopefully. Maybe Purdy's back. Pierce Hall's going to be practicing on Wednesday, so those could be huge offensive boosters, and maybe they get us over that 30-point range. But, folks, that's going to wrap this episode. I've been rambling on for too long here. I've been taking up too much of your time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Gold Rush Podcast. I'm your host, Shaven Takar. Go on down there. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Niners. I love to chat with y'all down there. While you're down there, leave a like. Check out the description for my other social medias as well. And, hey, subscribe. Why not, huh? Folks, I will see you guys next week against Arizona. All right. Peace out. Have a good one.